Hello YouTubers, the link to this sugar cookie recipe is down in the description box. I'll provide some annotations to them. I already made this dough in my unicorn cookie video, and it has so much left over that I'm just going to reuse them again now, but the icing I used in this video is a different recipe. To avoid this crazy exploding mess I did, add the water before you add the meringue powder, don't be like me. Turn this mixer on to a medium-high speed, around a 3-ish or 2. Lower your mixer speed and gradually add in your powdered sugar. I realized how heavy the bowl was and I decided to just go with the spoon, spooning in the powdered sugar 1 spoon at a time. You can tell your icing is done when it's shiny and stiff. Remember to cover your icing with a damp cloth when you're not using it or it'll dry up. Divide your icing up in small bowls to color them. I left out a lot of white so I could use them for the border, but I kept that aside in a bowl. Using an edible marker and a ruler, mark up even spaces in between your cookies. Use the ruler to draw a straight line to use as a guide for your icing. Okay, this is the most even drawing, but I did my best. Using a number 3 piping tip and whatever color you want to go with first, I chose red. Outline one section of your heart. Now let the icing dry for at least 10 minutes. Fill the cookies with flowy consistency royal icing. If your icing is too thick, add a little bit of water at a time and mix it. Using a toothpick, spread the icing around in small circular motions. Try not to scratch the cookie and create crumbs while you're doing this, and poke out any air bubbles and tap it. I'm basically doing the same thing I did earlier, but I'm just making an outline with one side open because I already have an outline over there that's blocking it. Just filling my cookies again also, and spreading it with my toothpick. Remember, you need your outline to dry before you fill them up with more icing. And remember to always keep any icing you're not using at the moment covered with a damp cloth to prevent it from drying up. That includes piping bags or extra icing that you set aside. Poking a toothpick through the tips while they're not being used is also a good way to keep the piping tip holes from getting clogged. Sometimes while piping, my tips would get stuck and I would just grab a toothpick and just poke whatever is obstructing the hole. If you feel like any icing is getting too soft, add more powdered sugar and keep mixing until it's smooth and shiny. If it's too stiff, just add a little bit of water at a time and keep mixing it until it's smooth and shiny. I think the hardest part about learning how to pipe royal icing is understanding the different consistencies for outlining and flooding. Outlining has to be stiff enough for you to pipe a line without it sinking flat or changing shape. Flooding icing is honey-like consistency, and you can squeeze it out of a bottle and flood your cookie, or like color your cookie, and it should be able to sink flat in a few seconds. I took a break earlier, so I'm just pulling the toothpick out of my piping tip. I left it in there so no icing would get stuck in the nozzle or the little hole area while I stepped away. Icing doesn't dry super fast, but stepping away from icing and coming back to it, you could find all your icing has hardened and a mess. You can leave your cookies as it is right now, but I felt like it needed something more to it and I wanted to add a border. To make this border, you need super stiff icing. This icing is sort of the consistency of frosting or buttercream. Here I'm just adding some powdered sugar to a bowl of icing and just mixing it until it's like really stuffed. I wanted to show you different borders that you could do with your cookie since I was just experimenting and playing around with it. I'm showing you the rope border right now. Using a number 3 piping tip, just make an upside down U and take your tip and go underneath that and bring it over, connecting to the last U, bring it over, connecting to the last U, bring it over. This is called the rope technique. Next, I'm doing like shells. You build and you bring it down, build and you bring it down. This is number 16 piping tip. This is reverse shell with the same piping tip number. You just build and you bring it around, build and bring it around. With the number 16 piping tip, make a U. Under that U, bring it over, connect to that U, bring it over, connect to the other U, bring it over. This is like the rope technique, but with the different kind of tip, the star tip. I went up with this design for the border. My cookie's looking kind of gross at the corner because I messed up with the icing and I just brushed it off. Now, number 16 piping tip, make a U, go under, go over, connect to that U, bring it over, connect to that U, bring it over. This is called the rope technique. This is the last technique I use in examples of different borders you can make like a second ago, if you couldn't tell. Sorry for the lack of enthusiasm in my voice, guys. I'm sort of like slowly losing it, like my voice, from narrating this 9-minute video. I really loved how this border looked like fluffy clouds. Making this cookie made me super happy with all the colors. Okay, here's the final product. I'm super proud. I really love how this cookie turned out. If you liked this video and enjoyed it, please comment and subscribe and like the video. Thank you. See you again.